So this time in Pulse, we're going to be following the story of Moses and talking about how his life was changed and impacted through having a relationship with God. And through our Pulse film series, we're going to be interviewing different youth workers from across Merseyside and talking about how their lives were impacted by faith. So today we're here with Zoe. Zoe, it's great to have you here with us.
Hi.
Let's just start off by, could you share just a little bit about who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, so my name's Zoe Abernethy. I work for the brilliant Wirral YOC, like you, which is awesome. And I've worked for them for about 8 years, which seems like a long time, but it's gone really, really fast. I live in Morton on the Wirral, and I live with my husband Andy and my chocolate cross Labrador Aussie.
Very nice, amazing. So just a couple of little questions that we all want to know the answer to.
Okay.
So cheese and onion or salt and vinegar?
Cheese and onion.
Who do you think would win in a fight, Taylor Swift or Adele?
Taylor Swift.
Why?
Don't know, she's just my favourite. She's quite feisty, isn't she?
She is, good answer.
Yeah.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
That was quite certain, that answer. We've had a few variations on that answer there. If you had a superpower, would you prefer to read minds or be invisible?
I think I'd prefer to be invisible, only because reading minds is a little bit scary. I would not want to
pretty
be able
dangerous.
to do that.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't want to know what people are thinking. No thanks.
Amazing. And if you were trapped on a desert island and you could only download one album on Spotify, what would that album be?
Ooh, one album. Well, I'm going to stick with Taylor Swift because she's fantastic. Love her songs, and her latest album, 1989.
Fantastic. No, good answer. I probably have to agree with you on that one. That's
Yes.
a really good album. Brilliant. So now that we've got the important questions out of the way, let's talk a little bit more personally about your life. So at what point in your life did you first encounter God?
Well, I've always been brought up in a Christian family, and I felt really fortunate to have had that opportunity. I was actually adopted when I was 1 year old by my mum and my dad, who were Christians, and they had gone to church all their life. And so they brought me up very much, teaching me about God. And I felt, especially as a child, that I knew about God, but I didn't actually know God personally. And I think that was something that I was really searching for as I kind of became 11, 12 years old. I wanted to know God for myself rather than being told that there was a God, being told that God loves me. And one time that I can remember where I actually really felt God speak to me for the first time, personally to me, was when we went to get McDonald's, a Happy Meal. Gotta love a bit of McDonald's. And really randomly, this time that we got the Happy Meal, they were giving away like free CDs. So I took the CD and I put it on at home to see if it was any good, thinking it's free, so it's probably not going to be that great. And they were of a band that nobody would have heard of because they were so old, but BB Mac they were called.
Okay.
And there was a song on this little CD, I think there was 2 or 3 songs, that was called Still on Your Side. And I remember listening to it, and it was like in that moment, those lyrics were like God's heart for me, and he was trying to communicate to me through the song. And the lyrics, quite simply, were, I will stand up for you no matter what you're going through. I'm still on your side, anytime, day or night. Don't care if it's wrong or right, I'm still on your side. And it was like in that moment that God was just communicating his heart for me, his faithfulness to me, that he was with me no matter what I did. You know, if I messed it up, if I got it wrong, or even if I got it right, he was saying, I'm for you no matter what you do, and no matter what you go through, I'm on your side. And that just spoke really powerfully to me. And ever since then, he's done that. He's been faithful in kind of just speaking to me when I'm kind of doing something that I might enjoy, whether it be through music or through a movie. God kind of just interrupts me, and he speaks to me through these things that I like to do and enjoy.
Fantastic. Now, isn't it amazing that God can use something like a McDonald's Happy Meal toy
It's amazing.
to speak something to someone new? That's
Yeah.
incredible. So since then, how has God continued to impact your life?
Well, I suppose the reason why I'm here today is purely because of God, and it sounds really cliche, but it's just completely true. And I work with young people because I believe that it's God's plan for my life, and that he purposed that for me. And when I left school, I very much knew that I didn't want to go to uni, but I was trying to figure out, actually, what do I want to do? What do I want my life to be about? And I very much felt it was right to take a year out, and I joined a church for a year called The Foundry, and I did a gap year there called XL. And the kind of tagline for the year was one year, your life, big difference.
Wow.
And it really was a major difference, really impacted me. And I learned a lot about who God was, and then in turn learned a lot about my identity and who I am. And that was a really important time for me to kind of build those foundations in my relationship with God. And then it came to a place where I was like, well, what am I going to do next? I've kind of taken this year out, well, what next? And continuing just to ask God, really. And I remember one day I was standing in front of this old CD player, and I had this worship song on. And one of the lyrics in the worship song was, I will go for you, send me. And I remember singing that at the top of my lungs, meaning it with all my heart. Like, God, I'll go for you. Whatever you want, I'm going to go for it, and I want to do it. And he did literally send me into youth work again, which was really exciting. And I found out there was a job at Wirral Youth for Christ, and I thought, I'm going to apply for it. I'm going to go and give it a try, even though it very much felt like way beyond me. But I thought, why not? God can do the impossible. So I filled out the application form and put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, ready to send off. And that very day, the team on my gap year, we were heading off to a conference, and I said to the team leader, can you drop me off on the way so that I can post the envelope in a post box? And he was like, yeah, that's fine. But he actually forgot on the way. So we got to this venue, and I'd addressed the letter to Martin Dixon, who was director of Wirral IFC at the time. And as I walked through the door, there in front of me stood Martin Dixon, the very guy that I needed to get my application form to. And it was amazing, really. It was like, oh, God, what are you trying to do here? You're trying to say something to me. And I believe it wasn't a coincidence that actually we were meant to meet that day. And he took the letter from me and he said, well, here you go, you can have your stamp back. You don't need to post it anymore. And here I am 8 years later, which is really exciting.
Wow, so it's amazing to hear how much God has used you over that time, and obviously in that 8 years since you started at YFC, which is fantastic. And my final question for you is, if you could give any advice to the young people that are in the Pulse groups that are coming every week, then what would that be?
I think for me personally, I've learned about the distraction of comparison, and how comparison can it rips your eyes off God. It stops you from looking at God, and it can cause you to look to your left or look to your right at him or to her and say, I wish I could do what he did, or I wish I looked like her. And I think over the past few years, I've really discovered the importance of not letting comparison get in the way of what God has for each and every one of us as individuals. And I had to go on a journey of actually who I am is enough. That I don't need to be like my best friend or do what people around me are doing, because actually God has created me to be me. And that's really freeing when you realise that God has got a plan and a purpose for you individually. And then people always ask me then, well, how do you find your plan? How do you find your purpose? How do you find your identity? And my answer is really simple every time. And it's about going to the one who gave you that purpose, who gave you that identity. And, being, I suppose, a discipline from our part, but choosing to pursue after a God who is constantly pursuing after us. And whether that looks like meeting with your Christian friends or putting yourself in an environment where you're going to learn more about God, or even if it's, by yourself on your own, in your bedroom, taking some time out, get your Bible out, praying, putting on a song, however you want to connect with God. It's different for each and every one of us. And then allow God to start speaking into your heart, telling you the truth of who you are, rather than you looking around at everyone else to try and find out who you are. And that's been a really important life lesson for me. It's not about what other people are, what other people say I am, but it's about who God has created me to be.
Yeah, brilliant. No, really encouraging message there. Something that not only can speak to the students in Pulse, but to all of us. So Zoe, thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.